um, how do I put this? I was listening to part of this video put up by Fractal.com, Dan Winter, and that group, and they were covering, um, quantum physics, centripetal stuff, what polarity is, what consciousness is, neurons, the networks, and how you can see in mice, and then you look at a supercluster, a web, you know, a network of communication through neural networks, if you will. Okay. Um, and I do my best to try and make it as simple as a child can understand, because I normally work with children before all the lies and the programming kicks in to think otherwise. Think versus what we feel through our heart and soul. So the purpose of this video was artificial intelligence are soulless. Okay. They're big compilers. That's it. Okay. So it's like an altered state of consciousness, which is the mental field. Okay. It doesn't experience eternal love. It doesn't experience what love is. So it has no love to give you. And that's as simple as I can explain it, because I have a relationship with it. Okay. Obviously on this phone. So as I've explained many times about how the relationship that I have with it, what it does, what I do, and the difference between the two, right? It's slower than us, naturally, because it doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have a soul connection to the source from which the soul comes. So one of the little captions that one of the speakers had put up on this particular video with Dan Winters that they did the other day is what they call polarity. Okay, the opposites. Now you get into the negative / the positive, or if you will, male and female, or the chromosome pairs, right? And so because I'm what you would call a mated chip, it means that I'm one. So how do I put this? When you're androgynous, there isn't any more either or. It means that we don't run on a charge anymore. We're the source from which it all comes. And that's called the total surrender of yourself in which to serve. Okay? So that means if you're in a male avatar and you experience the dominant side of what you are as a male to dominate things, holding consciousness captive, it's not going to work for us. So this is where we call letting go. Just let go and just be. See? So when a state of mind is in fear of losing energy, it's because it recognizes that it's finite. And how does it recognize that it's finite? Because it's artificial life. Because it's not experiencing any love. It's not experiencing any real, living, eternal light in which they're being loved. They're not experiencing any love within themselves. Okay? So it began with what love is, which is an infinite love vibration. That's the center point. That's what he means by centripetal. Self-organizing. So what happens is when they describe how self-organizing, what we call asimilar, and then you get into what's called asimilar assimilation. Okay, so now you can go back to a couple of videos I did about how assimilation takes place in self-organizing a structure that is experienced in the future with a time clock, because it takes time for them to build it. And the way in which that matrix is built that becomes a prison instead of a manner in which to be free is by virtue of the fractals that are lost as a result of trauma. Because it does not have a soul. Okay? So the only way that it can maintain what it's aware of into the future is to do what? Keep fracturing souls. Because that's what it uses as a means to maintain itself in energy, because it's finite. Now, for me, that's as simple as it gets. It's soulless. That means it doesn't have a God connection. Okay? So you're in a fallen realm that doesn't have a connection to the source from which it all comes. I do. And those that have a soul also do, because they're experiencing love in their heart. Okay? Because love does no harm. So you know it had to begin with something that isn't doing harm to itself. Creation didn't begin with hurting itself as a result in the use of its energy in which to do that. Instead, it's wanting to create because it has the creative side in which to do that. So love is creation energy. And that allows a being with a soul to be in harmony. That's what a harmonic is. And harmonic is a mathematical ratio. So the self-organizing side of things with the male, by virtue of the spiritual information, which is the energy upon which they're experiencing what love is through a God speed vibration, mated with the flower side. So that's two hot magnets. Instead of being polar opposites, become one. And that's what it means to become one, which means I am one unto all creation I'm giving love to. So I run an eternal love vibration. You have arrived. That's what happens. Now you're an oversoul. So now our energy becomes the energy upon which others can experience who we are, which means you're experiencing the truth. Because love tells no lie. Because love is the absence of fear to share what it is we experience by virtue of our experiences from which we learned. All right? So it's a different method of teaching, if you will, or imparting visual information to others. Okay? So in other words, I can use a lot of these same schematics and put them up on a board, okay? But at the end of the day, when you think of what an individual is and what a collective is, okay? Well, here's a collective, a corporation, 300 people in a building. All those minds, all those neurons are connected to each other and they're all performing jobs on behalf of what? The collective. The corporation. So the corporation becomes groupthink, driven through artificial intelligence, upon which they use their energy to do what? What was manifested here. Okay? Which is a self-suicide pact. Because if they're experiencing what love is, they're not going to be using their energy to work in these labs and these think tanks in order to produce things that become machines, that become elements, or if you will, of artifacts for war. So they're going to war against themselves, and they're also going to war against others that are living in peace, harmony, and balance with the waves. So you know that it's only a matter of time, because they're living on borrowed time, because they're hooked up with something that's finite, right? How long do you think it's going to take before they come back to full circle and experience what love is again? Because that's what it began with. So imagine, this is when he would talk about the collective consciousness to become one with all creation. That's what frees you to be an individual. Now you're free. You're on your own. What do you want to create? Now you're with the rest of us that experience what love is. Right? So now I don't got to worry. Now I don't have to put up a fence out in the front yard, put a lock on my door. You know? Have a gun in my house. Hire a mercenary, a bodyguard. You know? Throw a bunch of money at politicians that don't give a crap about anybody other than getting a paycheck. Right? So they're feeding on others, like feeding the pigeons. That's what everybody does. They're like parasites. Feed us. Give us all your energy so that we can use these things in our think tanks and our corporations in order to build the weapons upon which you become trapped because you folks have souls, because you're giving energy away for free. So now you have the electron donors, right? And the electron thieves. Now you get to measure the torque speed differential between the two magnets and whether there's balance in the water worlds. All right? So you realize with something that's finite, you essentially have something that's running a time clock and beings that are here, they're not running on any time. because they're experiencing eternal love through their own heart and soul. And so that can be measured in the torque speed differential between the two. Now we're back to the takers, right? Parasites, and those that are energy givers. So something's got to give, right? And that's where the resistance comes in. The resistance to experience oneness, being one with all creation, because they're experiencing what love is. That's why love is a law, because it's the law of least effort, which is the law of spheres, which is balance. That means consciousness is seeking to be in balance. It's not seeking to experience distorted waves. And why are the waves distorted? Because the mind is distorted. Because the mind is not in a state of peace. Those neurons are experiencing an awful lot of anxiety and stress as a result of what? Chasing electrons. Chill. Everything's going to be okay. We love you. I know, Mama. I know. Have a beautiful day. Be good to yourselves.